Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us on today's webinar, Positioning Yourself for Success in the Banking Industry. My name is Sally Okogho. I'm the Regional Communications Manager for Nexford University. And today with me, I have the Unify team who will be sharing more on how new graduates, entry-level staff, and if you're seeking to switch careers to move into the banking section, we'll be sharing more on that with you later. I might have the Unify team with me today, Samuel Omokanye, who is the General Manager for the Unify products, and also other team members that you get to meet as we go on with today's program. As I said earlier, I'm the Regional Communications Manager for Nexford University, and I'll just give you a brief introduction to what we do at Nexford. Nexford University is an American accredited and licensed university. We're based in Washington, D.C., and we offer fully online programs. All our programs are 100% online. We currently have over 5,000 learners and graduates from nearly 100 countries around the world. And Nexford in Nigeria was established in 2019. Since then, we've graduated over 600 graduates, both in Nigeria and Washington, D.C. from our programs. And just to give you a brief overview of what our programs are, at Nexford, Our programs are competency-based programs. They're skill-focused programs that prepare you right away for the workforce. So it means that we're more focused on competencies, on building skills, and giving you the right skills that you need to translate into the workplace. We don't do a lot of theory. It's about giving you hands-on experience. At Nexford, we do both short courses, certificates, and we also have degree programs like the undergraduate program, and of course, which will be more relevant to you, the Masters of Business Administration program. Our MBA program takes an average of 15 months to complete, but the beauty of doing an online program is that it's very flexible. You can complete at your pace. So that means you can finish faster or earlier than 15 months, or you can take up to 18 months to complete your program. Our registration is done, sign up is done every month, and also tuition fees are paid monthly as well. So you don't need to save up a lump sum of money before you can take the MBA program. That's just to give you a brief overview of what we do at Nexford. At the end of the program, I'll share more about how to gain admission, how to enroll at Nexford, and where you can find more information about us. Right now, I will be handing over to the Unify team, who will be taking us through the next program. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sally, for that welcome. And good afternoon, everyone. You're welcome today. Of course, as you have seen, which made you join the webinar today, we're going to be talking about positioning yourself for a career, for a successful career in banking, right? I know many people here are recent graduates, youth corps members, those currently serving, and a couple of other people. And I'm sure you are interested in what's possible in banking, because at this stage of one's life, part of what one will be thinking is about what opportunities are available to me, and how can I take advantage of those opportunities that are available to me. And one of the opportunities is banking. And we're going to be talking today about the opportunities in banking and how you can take advantage of it. So welcome. If in case you have a friend who had registered to join, or who you think would benefit from it, you can just drop the person a chat quickly with the link to register, so the person can come on board and not miss this opportunity. Okay, so positioning yourself for a successful career in banking. Now, what we're going to go through the slides today. What are the opportunities available? We're going to be talking about the financial services industry. We're going to be talking about banking. We're going to be talking about training programs. And then how, as a graduate, how can you position yourself for a successful banking career? And then we're going to be talking about opportunities too, which is an opportunity we're going to be offering today, the banker's course. So just sit tight and you would enjoy. So I want to start with why we're doing this. Why are we organizing this program, right? And I would start with what Unify is. So Unify is an educational technology that aims to improve access to education. Access to education and the application of education for national development. A whole lot of people are unable to even enter universities to start with. On the average, people who are admitted into the universities, the polytechnics, and all the tertiary institutions is about 25% of applicants. So to start with, there are so many people who are even unable to access tertiary education. And then a lot of people who are able to access tertiary education are having issues with being able to get well-paying jobs. And what is the essence if you've gone to primary school, secondary school, and of course university, and all for you to not be able to get a well-paying, satisfactory job. And that's what we do at Unify, to assist people to be able to to have the right information, see the options available to them, and then it helps them to be able to make better and informed decisions. Now, a second reason why we're doing this is the fact that there are many graduates who would otherwise have had great careers if they were better informed. So when I was much younger, I used to believe that the way to get a job is by connection. Like, you just have to know someone. There's no way you can maybe get a job by just applying, not knowing anybody in the organization or something. I'm sure there's so many graduates today too who feel the same, who also thinks that the only way for them to maybe get a job is the fact that they have to like have a connection or something. And one more key important information is the fact that we all know that people are relocating a whole lot. People are moving abroad. But what is that opportunity for you as a graduate? Is the fact that as people are relocating, it gives a lot of opening in organizations for young graduates. So as you are graduating, as you finish your service, it's much easier for you today to get a job than even before, because many of the experienced, a good number of them have relocated, and jobs are opening. Jobs are openings in the bank and other organizations. So it's something very important too. Now I would move on from here, and and this is a quote from William Arthur Ward that says that opportunities are like sunrises. If you wait too long, you miss them. You know, as I said earlier, that a couple of people who could have otherwise had great careers, I mean, graduates, do not have them today because they didn't have the right information at that time. They missed the opportunity. And that can still happen if you don't have access to the right information. Now, see this triangle here, which I call the opportunities triangle. It's something that at the start of my career, my mentor sat me down, and while we're talking, he drew this triangle, and he mentioned a few things about it, which I would like for us to note as we start. And why it's that? Because many people maybe have the wrong idea of banking and many other organizations, and they're like, no, I'm not going to work here. I'm not going to work here. Okay, maybe I'm just going to go and start my business, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with starting your business, of course. But because many people lack the right information, did not make use of the opportunity they could have at the same time. So I'm going to speak to this, right? Now, in the opportunities triangle, as a graduate, you have to think of what you can do. What you can do is about your skills, right? Like, okay, I've graduated from computer science, I've graduated from biochemistry, I've graduated from microbiology. What can I do? What software am I able to use? What skills do I have? What knowledge do I have? And then you consider that what you can do with what can bring you money. Okay, you're in Nigeria at the moment, right? What is the economy saying? What is possible for you to do? Based, what can bring you money from what you can do? So, of course, as regards to what you can do, it speaks to your skills, it speaks to knowledge. So the fact that you need to get knowledge to be able to get what you can do. And then you need to consider what can bring you money in the economy. In the Nigerian economy today, how can you make money as a graduate? I know for those of us on the call who are currently serving, you would already be thinking, okay, so how do I make progress after graduating? After finishing my NYSC, what do I do? How do I make money? How do I position myself to get a good job or able to get my business working and all of that? And then the third part of the opportunities triangle is what you love to do, your passion. Now, a mistake so many people make is that they just stick with what they want to do at the beginning. That is, by the time they graduate, they just look at it, okay, this is what I want to do. I want to be, say, for example, a musician. And they just stick with it without considering what they can do at the moment and what can bring them money. And what is the wisdom here? The wisdom is actually to consider all of this together. usually, if what you have passion for, what you love to do is available at the moment, and your skills can match up to it, and it can bring you money, please do well to start it. But if it can't, then you have to consider what you can do with what can bring you money. Now, of course, what you can do, as I said, you have to consider your skills, whether you need to upskill knowledge, whether you need to take maybe some certification exam, that you need some knowledge, you need to learn some softwares, you need to take some programs, or whatever you need to do. So you need to consider that in now being able to funnel the money into your passion. So what I was advised was, consider these three. What can you do at the moment? Can it bring you money? If it can't bring you money, go and upskill. What information do you have? And then, what is your passion? If your passion is different from what I can do at the moment that can bring you money, then do what you can do to bring you money at the moment, and then begin to channel it into your passion gradually, so that by the time you are well off to an extent, then you can begin to fund your passion directly. Let's move on. Now, what are the opportunities available for you as a graduate in Nigeria today? Just looking at our economy, what can you do as a graduate? And by the way, if you have any question, you can drop it in the chat room. The chat room is open, and I will take questions after the presentation. So please feel free to drop your questions in the chat. Now, what are the opportunities available for graduates in Nigeria? Now, there are largely two opportunities. Primarily, I mean, it's largely either you get a job or you start a business. Or maybe three opportunities, right? Because now relocation is also an opportunity. So let's look at it. The first one is working with an established corporate. Now, there are so many established corporates in Nigeria today who recruit as maybe several times in a year. We have consulting companies, consulting like KPMG, Ernst & Young, and a couple of other consulting companies, and they take a whole lot of graduates. We have finance. The financial industry is a very large industry in Nigeria, and it takes a whole lot of employment. There are about 20-something banks in Nigeria, and that's just commercial banks. There are merchant banks, there are stock exchanges, and a whole lot of employment opportunities in the finance sector. There's the oil and gas sector too, which is largely what we call the oil companies, the midstream, upstream, and downstream. Then there's the fast-moving consumer goods company. These are largely the Dangotes, the Unilevers. These are companies that sell the things you use on a daily, like your toothpaste, your Maggi, salt, things you use usually. And then there's the telecoms industry. Of course, for you to even be able to be on this call, you are either connected to one communications company or the other, MTN, Glo, Airtel, Etisalat, and a host of others, or even the local ones. There are a host of, and all of these people employ. It is not like they just produce this service out of thin air. There are actual people like you and me who are working for these corporate bodies. And to quickly chip in, irrespective of what you studied, you can get a job in consulting and in the finance industry. You know, as sometimes it is said that university is a place for you to learn how to learn, really. That is the fact that what you read, one of the topmost skills you can bring out of your higher institution is the fact that you learned how to be able to learn anything, so that irrespective of what comes to you, by the time you want to start working, you will be able to learn it. And I'm sure you have that skill as a graduate. So, and especially to work in consulting and the financial industry, largely, even if you studied Yoruba. I mean, if you studied something as unrelated to finance or to consulting as much as possible, you can always learn it. And these organizations know this, and they usually keep it open for graduates to apply. Of course, there is a new opportunity in recent times, which as a graduate at this time, you're lucky to be around this time because of this opportunity, which doesn't used to be available before. It's the fact that there are so many startup companies, fintechs, edtechs, LTechs, so many tech companies that are getting raises. And as they get raises, they seek to deploy their solution even on a bigger scale. And because of that, they are recruiting and employing people. I know that Flutterwave, one of the unicorn fintechs we have in Nigeria, employed a couple of graduates just sometimes late last year, and they employed, I think, about more than 40-something graduates at that time. And I am sure that it's not like the graduates knew anybody. They apply just as every other person can apply. And of course, another opportunity available to graduates is to work with small and medium-scale enterprises. SMEs power Nigeria. So a whole lot of small businesses, one-man businesses, little businesses here and there, some as big as making millions of naira and all of that. And that's like the highest, one of the highest sector that powers the economy. So it's an opportunity for you to work with those companies. There's also remote working options. I know people who work remotely for companies in India, companies in UK, companies in USA. And of course, it's based on what skill you have, software development, graphic design, and all of that. And you can pick up the remote working options too. And also you can start a business. Of course, that is very possible for graduates in Nigeria. Either you're a graduate or not, really, you can start a business, and then you can work with the government, right? There is so many arms of government, state government, local government, federal government, the central bank recruits and all of that. Although I would be practical to say that so many times the route to work to the government is not like as straightforward as the other routes, because sometimes you see applications, and of course, almost everybody wants to apply to the government application. So many people eventually do not get to get the jobs. But yeah, but that's actually another opportunity, and there are a lot of people who are working too. And of course, as I said, there's the relocation option too. So many people are choosing to just relocate, maybe go do their further studies in UK, Canada, and from there just try to settle in there. Now I'm going to go more specific now to the financial services industry. That was what I did was an initial overview just to see the opportunities that are available for you as a graduate in Nigeria, so that your minds can be open to the fact that there's a vast number of opportunities. As you know, many people will say, oh, there's no job, you have to know someone and all of that. But I know 101 persons who knew nobody in the companies they're working. But of course, they applied, and the idea of looking through the opportunities available so that you can know that there are actually opportunities available to you as a graduate, and you won't limit yourself with the mindset of there's no job. Of course, anybody who thinks there's no job is not likely going to see the opportunity for the jobs. Now, going more specific into the financial services industry, right? We have merchants and investment banks. So what many people are familiar with is the commercial banks. That's the Sterling Bank, the Eco Bank, the GT Bank. I mean, banks you use, myself and yourself use, and that's one, commercial banks. But we have merchant and investment bank, which actually deals with the big boys. I mean, they deal with corporates and high net worth individuals. High net worth individuals means people who are super rich, not our level, but we can get there, right? Then we have insurance companies too. Insurance companies are the companies that deal with all of the insurance claims. You want to insure your car, you want to insure your house, whatever you want to insure. Insurance companies does that. Pension management companies, when you start working, Nigerian law stipulates that you keep some money aside for pension, and your employer also keeps some money aside for pension. So these pension management companies are the ones who manage the pensions. Then we have microfinance banks. These are large, smaller banks. You see like Lapo Microfinance Bank, Lafayette Microfinance Bank, and they have their tiers. So some are just in the local government, some are in the state, some are in several states in the country. We also have stock brokerage firms. These are people who deal in stocks, right? There's a lot of stock brokerage firms in Nigeria, and there's a Nigerian stock exchange too. And of course, they employ graduates. And of course, I've talked about the fintechs earlier, which are also in the financial services industry. Now, what is sort of interesting about all of these industries is that almost all of them have some form of graduate training program, which means that all they really need you to do is be smart and be open to learn, like be open to learn and work with them. And then you go through the application process, you get in and you start your career, right? So whatever you have studied, the financial services industry is open and available to you to be able to get into it. But there's a timeline for that. Now, I'm going to go more specifically into banking because what we're talking about today is largely about banking. And I would just like to talk a bit about what a bank does. Largely, what a bank does is called financial intermediation. Basically, take money from those who have surplus funds and provide it to those who have needs of the funds. Now, of course, when you get your maybe stipends, maybe allowance, maybe as core members call it, you keep the money in the bank because it is not the day you get the money you want to use everything. It is you maybe want to spend it over the month, over several months and all of that. So while you can withdraw, transfer the amount you need at the moment, the remaining amount you keep in the bank. Now that's surplus money in a sense to you because you don't need it today. So you have somewhere to keep it till when you need it. Now, what does the bank do? Takes this surplus money, pull it together, and then lend it to those who needs the money. That by those who needs the money, I mean people who are interested in starting businesses and all of that, and want to spend the money. For example, someone wants to start a business, he needs a loan in the bank, so he goes to the bank. Of course, the bank has pulled money together, and then out of the money the bank has pulled together, the bank can then borrow the person. And of course, the bank's main business really is like that of taking risk, because there are so many risks to keeping money. And then there are so many risks to lending money to people. That's why for anybody who has attempted to borrow from a bank before, sometimes, as some people say, that it costs an arm and a leg to borrow money from the bank. It's because it's my money, your money, several people's money that are pulled together. So the bank is careful not to just take the money that have been entrusted with it and just give anybody anyhow. They want to verify that the business the person wants to use it for is something that is viable, so that they wouldn't lose the money. So largely, then of course, the bank pays you an interest, which is very small for those who just, when you keep money in a normal savings or checking accounts, you may get a little interest, but there's also like fixed deposit and all of that. That's for people who actually fix the money in the bank. Okay, maybe for a period of 1 year. Okay, keep my money for a period of 1 year, because the bank can plan with that 1 year. When you keep the money, for example, for a period of 1 year, the bank can plan with it and maybe be able to borrow someone for a period of 1 year. But the money you put in your normal savings account, you can withdraw it anytime. So it's harder for the bank to plan with that. So that's why the interest is usually low for just the money put in your checking account as compared to a longer term savings, and then you borrow it out. That's largely what a bank does. But you know that this is the heart of what a bank does, but it has so many dynamics to it. And the so many dynamics to it also implies that there are so many career opportunities. Because now, while you're on this call, you're not thinking just as the bank's customer, you are thinking as someone, as a potential employee of the bank. So you are thinking like, okay, so with what the bank does, what are the opportunities available to me to be able to deal? And I've just listed 20 here. If this webinar was going to be a very long webinar, we could talk about more than 100 possible career options in banking, right? Of course, everyone needs some form of financial intermediation. And yes, this is why there are a lot of career opportunities. But I'm just going to talk in brief about this, some of these ones that are listed here. So you can see that irrespective of what you have studied, there's a lot of opportunities for you in banking. There's risk management. Of course, I've talked about the fact that the bank takes risk in trying to determine who to lend to. So that's primarily credit risk, credit money, borrowing money, lending money out. Who is worthy of getting the money that's been entrusted into in the bank? Credit risk. Of course, it's not only credit risk, we have operational risk. We have so many different kind of risks that is possible, because banks have buildings also. What is the possibility of something happening to the building? What if there's a fire outbreak? What if there's a robbery incident and all of that? So many other things too in risk management. So banks have career options in risk management because, well, of course, that's like the primary duty of the bank. It takes risk in ensuring that money gets to the right sources. We have internal control and compliance. The fact that when you go into the bank, for example, and maybe you want to withdraw over the counter, I'm sure most of us don't do that anyways, and they would ask you, okay, confirm your BVN, sign your signature and all of that. So basically what the internal control and compliance guys do is ensure that the operational guidelines that have been put in place by the bank to ensure safety of customers' money is being adhered to. So that it's not a random mister that will just go into the bank and withdraw money from another person's account. So basically, the people you meet who do that, both at the front end and at the back end, internal control or compliance sort of just confirm and validate that they are following the regular rules and instructions that have been put in place so as not to put customers' money in jeopardy and not to put the bank in jeopardy. There is audit. Audit, as the name implies, is a review. So banks constantly do a review of what they have done in the past year, in the past month, just to validate that everything is going well. And there's operations. Now, typically, operations is like the largest number of staff base in the bank. And the reason is because, of course, there are so many branches and there are so many operational activities in the bank. When you go typically to a bank, you see tellers, you see customer service officers. Those are operation staff. But what you may not know is that there are also a lot of operation staff that you don't see, because some of what is being done, and there are also processes at the back end that needs to sort of complement it. So sometimes if you have visited any bank head office, you'll see that they are usually gigantic buildings, maybe with 12 floors, 15 floors, 20 floors, and there are people working in all those offices. It's because operations take a lot of work, a lot of work, right? And there are people who are employed to do this, and you can't be one of them. There's strategy and innovation. There's relationship management. Relationship management is a role that also takes a whole number of people, and it's largely a sales role with business development, because what relationship management does is the fact that they are customers of the banks, and the relationship manager for a bank would represent the bank to the customer, make the customer aware of the products of the bank and see how the products of the bank can benefit the business of the customer. So that's like the center attraction for the role of a relationship manager. Both operations and relationship management are usually spread over so many states of the federation, because literally every bank branch you see has at least operations staff and relationship management staff. There's also digital and transaction banking roles. As much as there are so many physical interaction, I can guess that for many of us here, we've not entered the bank in the past 1 to 3 years. Why? Because we have our mobile apps, we have our internet banking that we use for these transactions. So there are people too, usually product managers, who manage this, who manage the bank's applications, who ensures that everything goes smoothly, who listens to customers' feedback. So, when you go to Twitter and give your feedback, so bank, why is your network not going? I've been trying to transfer. They take those feedback and they're able to look at the application in conjunction with technology to see, okay, what can we do to solve it, to make it easier for customers and all of that. There's project management too. There are so many projects banks undertake. So there's a project management too. There's treasury management too. Treasury management is another career opportunity that you can consider, because for what they do in treasury is the fact that the bank takes money in. It takes money from the likes of you and me, who can withdraw it anytime. At the same time, it takes money from big corporates and all of that, who can fix it for a period of time, maybe 1 year, 2 years. And what treasury management tries to do is to ensure that there's a balance between the money coming into the bank and the money coming out. Let me explain. Remember, I said earlier that the core function of a bank is financial intermediation, that takes money from those who have it and give to those who don't have it. Now, imagine a situation where maybe the bank has taken just 100 million naira from people and has lent the whole 100 million naira out, and then people, maybe about 10 million naira from those who are deposited the 100 million, they need 10 million naira out of it. The bank wouldn't have any money because they had lent out all the money to customers. So basically try to balance this to ensure that we won't have a situation where people would come to ask for the money they have deposited and the bank would have no money because they have borrowed it all out. That's about what they do. Then, of course, technology related rules. There are so many technology related rules that happens in the bank. Of course, software development, programmer. If you're learning to be a programmer, that's a good one. Quality assurance, because for every application and every digital product also, the products have to be tested. So there are quality assurance analyst who does that. Application support engineer. Apart from software development, there's the fact that a whole lot of people have to support the live application when you're having issues on the application that you're using. There's information security. Of course, hackers are always trying to see how they can steal money from the bank and all of that. And well, because of that, the banks have information security officials who sort of do checks on the banking system every now and then to ensure that the security is tight, to ensure that customers' information and customers' money does not go out. Another area that can be explored as a career option is digital marketing. A lot of banks' products are digital today. So there's the digital marketing aspect, there's the branding and communications. Branding and communications has a whole lot of things in that. Communications experts, even digital marketing is part of branding and communication. Graphic designer, motion designer, everything that basically deals around communicating of the bank's brand and the bank's activities to customers. There's finance and tax also. Now, this is a sweet spot for those who studied accounting, banking and finance and all of that, and tax. But there are a lot of people too who didn't study it, but then on graduating, they took up the roles in banking and they learned via the ropes, and they are doing well today. There is human resources management. Of course, banks have large numbers of staff, and the average banks usually have around 4,000 to 5,000 staff, each commercial bank, right? So they are human resources people, because to manage 4,000, 5,000 staff is not rice and beans. It just doesn't happen like that. There are people who have to actually coordinate it to ensure your salary is paid, to ensure that you get the right training and all of that. Also, there's the trade aspect. Of course, what bank does is try to support the real sector, the businesses that are happening, people who have money, people who want to do trade, people who want to do transactions. So there is both local trade and international trade. That is, there are people who do import and export. It is the bank that also help in this. So there are trade professionals in the bank too. There's data analytics. There's a whole lot of data being generated from use of digital banking tools by banks today. There's legal services. This is one of the areas that maybe you can't just learn, unlike many of the other areas I've mentioned, where irrespective of what you studied, but legal services, to work primarily there, you have to be a lawyer, of course. So maybe you have to consider going to study law and going to law school before you can get that. Yeah, and there is a new emerging field, which is Islamic banking today, which is something that you can also learn about because of the fact that Islamic banking is going in Nigeria. We have the Alternative Bank, Jais Bank, and a host of other banks who deal in Islamic banking related transactions. If you have traveled, you will likely have seen maybe Sukuk bond and all of that. Those are Islamic finance transactions. And by the way, because it's called Islamic banking, there are many people who think that, oh, maybe it's only Muslims that can deal with this. But I know some Islamic banks which most of their customers are even Christians. largely it is the fact that it's banking based on Islamic principle. It does not mean that as a non-Muslim you cannot participate in the banking. So yeah, there's also facility management. Banks have a lot of facilities. They have cars, buildings, and all of that. And facility management is an area that can be explored too. And then customer experience. I'm going to stop at customer experience. There are a host of other career opportunities. But out of these 20 career opportunities here, is only one that required what you studied particularly, which is law, legal services. Every other thing, irrespective of what you studied, it's something that you can eventually explore. Now, I'm going to talk on the routes to work in a bank, right? There are largely 3 routes to work in a bank: graduate programs, experienced hire, and outsourced services. Of course, this is speaking to graduates, so I would focus a lot on the graduate program. But let me speak on the experienced hire and outsourced services. Banks in Nigeria today, the number of full staff, from data that is available from banking data available, they have about commercial banks have employed about 100,000 staff members today. But out of the 100,000 staff members available, right, those are full staff members. There's also about maybe an equal number of people who work with the bank, but are officially not staff members of the bank. And I'm going to explain this. So a good number of people you see in the branch, I mean, maybe some tellers and some customer service people, they actually outsourced staff, such that there are companies that are called outsourcing companies who would recruit these people, and then they will sort of like second them to the bank. So those people are not primarily the bank staff. They are staff of the outsourced company, but they are working for the bank. So that's actually another route to work in a bank too. But through this route, you would not be a bank staff formally. You're actually working for the outsourced company, unless maybe eventually you're converted or something about that. But this happens a whole lot. Then there's the experienced hire. Experienced hire is basically that you're already doing something along the line of any of these careers or the other careers available in banking, and the bank wants to hire you. Say, for example, you're a customer service person, maybe with a telecoms company, or even with a small company, and then the bank is looking for a customer service person. You're a business development person, a relationship manager with another company, then the bank can hire you into its experienced hire role. Now, for graduates, there is this graduate and management training program that banks do, and for the sake of for you to be aware, right? It's not only banks that does graduate programs. All the earlier companies I've mentioned, consulting, banks, other financial services industry, oil and gas, they do graduate training programs. They do management training programs, and it is important for you to understand that this happens. And reason being that when you are aware that this happens, you will be on the lookout for it and you can apply. Now, these graduate programs, usually they have this general requirement, which is largely minimum of second class lower. That's most of them. Some would even say a minimum of second class upper, but a lot of them would allow for a minimum of second class lower. Usually the maximum age is usually around 27, 28 thereabouts. And then, of course, if you have a master's degree, it's an added advantage for people, for you, for the application process, right? So the graduate programs are usually a program by which banks take in fresh graduates who maybe just finished about 2, 3, 4 years ago, who qualified for this, take them through an application process, irrespective of what they have studied, and then post them within the banking space, that's within their banks. Now, and this is very important, especially if you do not study anything related to bank. Going through a graduate training program will give you a whole lot of advantages, because they will practically teach you the things you need to learn for your role. As I said, that going into an higher institution, one of the key advantages is that you not only learned for your course, but you also learned how to learn, like you understood how to learn. So the banks would then teach you the things you're required to do, the things you are required to know, and then post you into different places. And of course, you can then take more skills and more training later, and that would give you some advantages in your career, right? I've put a link to some of the training program here, but you can just do a Google search by yourself and see. Just Google like this. You can Google like Sterling Bank Graduate Training Program, and you would see the minimum requirement. This is also UBA Graduate Training Program. Now, these are not like, these are programs that they advertised last year, but the idea is the fact that these things are available and you can apply. And the people that are picked, you don't have to have any connection. You don't have to know anybody. It is that you pass the required assessment stages and you're good to go. So what I will do next is just talk about the assessment stages, what you need to know about the assessment stages. Now, for most graduate programs for bank, these are the assessment stages, and it usually starts with the online application. Basically, they put out the adverts online, and then people are expected to apply. Now, of course, if you miss the application, you're already out of the game. Either you didn't see the application or you didn't complete your application, you're already out of the game. So that means there is no story about it, right? Then the second stage is online aptitude exam. So usually, because of the huge number of people who are applying to bank jobs, they usually have their second stage as an aptitude exam, so that people can take the aptitude exam online, and they would use that to limit people. For example, on the average, banks get as high as 10,000, 20,000 applications when they put out their graduate and management training program. And of course, for a bank that puts it out, maybe eventually they want to hire 150 people at that time for that year, and they have 10,000, 20,000 applications. So one of the first things they will do is, okay, no problem, send everyone online aptitude exams to write, and the people who pass will now qualify. I was privy to information about one of the graduate programs, of which about 25,000 people applied for the graduate training program. But by the time they did the first stage, which was an aptitude exam, only 700, about 700 people passed. So that had automatically eliminated over 20,000 people already out of the loop. So it's something for you to be aware of. Then there's assessment center. Now, after the online aptitude test, for some graduate training program, you would have a physical aptitude test. That is, you would go to like an assessment venue, at a CBT venue, where you write the physical aptitude test. Or on the alternative, they can just, after the aptitude exam, they can have an assessment center. Now, assessment center usually consists of several situations in which you're put into to check to ensure that you have what it takes to work in the bank. Remember, the bank did not fully care about what you studied, but what they care about is the fact that they want to know that you are intelligent and mature enough to be able to work in the bank. You are smart enough. So the assessment center can consist of an aptitude exam, usually consists of aptitude exam 2, consists of like a group discussion where they put you with a couple of other people to discuss. They'll give you a topic to discuss. It consists of presentation. Some consist of using Microsoft. Of course, presentation, usually they will allow you to use Microsoft PowerPoint. So if you can't use Microsoft PowerPoint, sorry, you're already out. Then some would have Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel examinations. Also, I mean, they will put give you some tasks to do on Microsoft Word and Microsoft Excel to be able to do that. Then some also consist of an interview. So you have a sit-down interview. It can be a panel interview where there will be a couple of people who will speak to you, who would interview you, or maybe 1 or 2 persons who will interview you. Usually for people who have passed this assessment center stage, then they can go to the final interview. The final interview is usually like a management interview where you would have a sit down with a senior executive, maybe an executive director, the MD, or general manager, or someone, where you have passed most of the stages. So at that point, they just want to be sure that, okay, this person is a good fit for our banks. Of course, if you're applying for a course, you should for a bank, you should know that you should at least study basic things about the bank. You don't just go to an interview and they ask you, so do you know the role you're applying for, and you'll be looking. No. You need to be able to understand that. Of course, and there's document verification. So for some graduates, they do not pay attention to their documents, to ensuring their documents are in place. For example, there was someone who was to be employed recently, all to discover that the person had not gone to NYSC, but you had finished school for a long time, and you know that banks are highly regulated, and under Nigerian labor law, you are supposed to have done your NYSC before you can be employed, largely any organization, really. So make sure your documents are intact, your certificate, your document. Then there is the offer. Of course, after you are given an offer, that is usually for graduate training program, it's the same offer everybody is given, right? So, and they require you to like have references, maybe your professors, people who have known you, and a guarantor, because you're going to work in a financial services industry. So one way or the other, you're likely to deal with money. So banks would ask you to also bring a guarantor. Now, let me go to the meat of today quickly, which talks about the fact that what do you now do? What we have done so far has been to establish the fact that what the banking industry is about, what are the opportunities for graduates, what are the opportunities for graduates in the banking industry, and what are the things you need to know. So now that you know it, what do you need to do, which is important? Number one, prepare your CV to fit the job being applied for. C, graduates don't have just one CV. Have as many CVs as the possible areas you're applying for. This is what I mean. Typically, as a graduate, in these opportunities available, I would typically advise that you have at least 2 areas you are looking at, whether you want to work with an established corporate or a fintech, or maybe you want to work with an established corporate and the government. So the reason for you to have at least 2 is so that you can be trying to work towards both, because sometimes what you want may not come immediately when you want it, but you can begin to tailor your expectations towards it. So when you do that, when you have identified what options you want to choose, and what do you now need to do to prepare for it? So for example, say you want to work with a bank, you're applying to a bank, at the same time you're applying to maybe an FMCG. You shouldn't use exactly the same CV. Why the core essence of your CV is the same thing. After all, you can't change the university you went to, you can't change so many things, but you should be able to identify to change maybe like your summary and a couple of other things to fit more to the industry you're applying to. You're applying to an FMC, you're applying to a bank. You can put in your summary, for example, like, okay, I'm someone who is interested in financial services or something. And then for the one in the FMCG, you can put something like, oh, I'm passionate about goods being used daily or something related. Just understand and try to study the companies and industry you're applying to, and then prepare your CV for it. A second thing I would say is continually practice aptitude exam as a fresh graduate. So many opportunities. The first stage after you have applied is an aptitude exam. There is like GMAT, GSE, graduate standard examination. If you practice those things, there are 2 things it will do for you. Number one, it would help your cognitive thinking, because there is verbal, quantitative, and several other forms of aptitude questions. It will help your thinking skills. And number 2, it would help you prepare for when these aptitude exams will come, because sometimes you may not, it might just be 4 days notice you have that, oh, you have this aptitude exam for this job and all of that. But if you have not been practicing, you can't just use the 4 days to practice and excel at it. Also, prepare for interviews. These are simple things, but it's surprising that people will come for interviews and they do not even have the slightest information on the company they're applying for. For God's sake, you applied for the company. So you can't just go for an interview without understanding, at the minimum, who the MD of the company is, what is the business of the company, what's the business of the bank, what does the bank focus on. Also, one of the things you can do as a graduate is volunteer or intern for work experience. You especially once you have opportunities, maybe after your youth corps member, after your NYSC or whatever time you have, volunteer in a corporate. Just reach out to them. Okay, I would like to intern in your place. What's possible? There are actually several corporates, even a couple of banks who have that opportunity open on their website so that people can apply for internship in that place. One of what we do for you, we expose you to the corporate mind already before you even begin to work there. Another thing is to take up leadership positions in your communities. Whether it's your church, your community, whatever community you belong to, even if you're a core member, if there are leadership positions available. The reason is because, you know, as a graduate, as a fresh graduate, you don't have so much work experience. So one of the things that can set you apart is if you have been in a leadership position before, because they know that, okay, you have interacted with people, you have tried to lead a group of people, you have tried to communicate with people, and you have tried to do things, because you'll be surprised that in your interviews, the leadership positions might have questions which they will ask you about. Okay, so did you have any challenge while you are being the president or the secretary or something for this community? So how did you handle it? Because eventually for interviews, the interviewers don't know you before, so they want to get to know you. So people, one of the things that stand out for people have previous leadership experience, leadership, volunteer experience, or if you have interned somewhere before. Yeah, then I've mentioned about the fact that you should research on the company you're applying for before, especially before the first stage, because some of the aptitude exams, they would even infuse some questions as related to the company there. Moving on, develop your relationship and conversational skills. This is very important because there are a lot of graduates who are sort of awkward in their communication, their relationship. They are just shy. They don't want to, like, oh, I don't want to talk. I just like being by myself. But remember that if you are going to have to work in a corporate, you will relate with people. You relate with your co-workers, you relate with clients, with customers, and so many people. So if you are just the type that you don't know how to relate, you don't know basic etiquette, basic relationship ethics, how to converse, how to start a conversation, because some of the interview process, as I said, you have to like present. So it's not when you just get to the presentation, you just be looking and like, okay, good afternoon, sir. No, you have to be able to converse, and it's very important. And part of it is, of course, by belonging to communities and serving as if possible, as a volunteer, as a leader there. Also, this is important for you to say. If you are about 70 to 80% qualified for a job, don't shut yourself out, apply to the job. And I've seen this happen a lot of times. So at a job I had worked at, when I was leaving and I was going to assist in recruiting a person for my role, I looked at the job descriptions and requirements again. That's a job I've worked at for over 3 years, right? And I looked at the job description and I realized that even after the fact that I've worked at this role for 3 years, what I have is still about 70% of the requirements of this job. Which means that if I've been given that JD at the beginning and say, okay, this is JD for this role, I might not have applied. I've seen situations where banks have advertised, for example, you know, I mentioned for the graduate training program, it's a minimum of 2-1, 2-2, and all of that, where the bank advertised minimum of 2-1, and by the time they employed people, a couple of people who had 2-2 and applied also got the job. So don't shut yourself out because you are not fully qualified. If you're about 70 or 80% qualified for a job, please apply. Of course, don't be discouraged in your application process. You see, just like it is being said in a funnel, there are so many things that, so many jobs you can apply to at the start, but then some will reject you, some will ask you to come back later, some you will get to some stages before dropping out, but don't be discouraged. Don't be discouraged. Keep applying. Any graduate program you see, apply. But don't just apply blindly. As you're applying, whatever lessons you are taking from those applications, those rejected applications, use it to become better in your next application process. The next thing I'm going to say is very practical. See, Lagos is the commercial capital of Nigeria. It is very advantageous as a young graduate to be around Lagos. it is not a magic. It is not by anybody's doing. I mean, it is not by any of us doing that Lagos is the commercial capital. But practically, almost all banks headquarters are in Lagos. Almost all oil and gas headquarters are in Lagos. Insurance companies, literally everybody is in Lagos, right? So there is a lot of economic activities happening in Lagos, and it is very much better for you to be around Lagos. One, even if you have not gotten the graduate position you are looking for, there are so many smaller companies where you can get experience in Lagos, whether paid or unpaid. But if you are far in somewhere, I don't want to mention any states now, right? But if you are in some far away states, you are likely to miss good opportunities. I know of someone who got an opportunity to work with a fintech, of which the job advert was like just advertised, had been advertised, but the person saw the job advert a day to the day of the interview. And she just applied that day, and the next day they asked her to come for the interview, which she did aptitude test and all that. But if she was not in Lagos, she wouldn't have been able to do that. And she got the job, and she's doing very fine in her career now. But the point there is that if you really want to work in a corporate, you should consider being around Lagos. Of course, it may mean that you have to squat with someone or something, but please consider it. When applying for jobs, ensure your documents are properly tagged with your name and what that document is. Remember, there are 1,001 people, actually 10,000, more like 20,000 people who apply for the same job you're applying for. Don't make it hard for either it's an automated system or the recruiter who is trying to look through the CVs. Don't make it hard for them to see your CV. Name your CV appropriately. CV for Samuel Omokanye, NYSC certificate for so and so, BSc certificate for so and so. Make sure you label it appropriately, such that either it's because some companies just use an automatic a software to automatically filter. So if it's not named appropriately, the software might not even find it, so automatically you're out. And or even if it's a human being that is looking at it at the back end, they can be able to, from your description, find it easy to identify. Also, a couple of things to also do is join communities of fellow applicants. There's this tag that rings in my mind sometimes, says never do life alone. Don't try to be an island. Remember, it is information that puts you above. Some people who are in better positions than you today, it's not because they are better than you, they are smarter than you. Maybe you even graduated with better grades than them, but they have access to some information you don't have access to. So it is very important to join communities of fellow applicants. You see a community where there are people also looking for jobs and all of that, please do try to join. And another important thing is get as much guidance from mentors as much as possible. Don't try to, as I said, don't try to do it alone. Secondly, don't also just get information from people who do not know what they are doing. So when I mean mentors, people who have been there on that. For example, I went to a graduate program in my career. So it's easy for someone like me to mentor people who are also who are interested in going to a graduate program, because why? I understood the process I used to get it. So it's very important. You want to do something, get as much guidance. You want to work with the corporate, look for people who are already in the corporate. What do they know? What do they do? How can you position yourself rightly? And we have a community for this, actually, where people can have access to mentors who have done this. Also, another thing I would strongly advise you as a graduate to do is find people who are successful in the areas you are interested and follow them on social media. Not just following them, trying to see what they post, what's their history. For example, one of the things I do sometimes is I go to people who are sort of love their career trajectory and go and look at the places they have worked, the certifications they have, what did they do, and all of that. And sometimes, if I'm able to chat them up, or if I have an opportunity to meet with them, I try as much as possible to meet with them and just get some insight from them. So because these people have done it, you don't have to struggle through the same struggles they have gone through, because they have struggled, they are the wiser for it, they are in better positions. So you can just learn from them and become better. And of course, learn how to use office productivity tools. As simple as this is, so many people have been dropped out of graduate programs because they are not able to. Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, PowerPoint, Google Sheets. These office productivity tools are important, and really, as a graduate in Nigeria, you should be familiar with it. But if you are not, well, our community can handle that for you. Then the last core point I will talk about is take courses that upskill you. So there are courses that upskill you. There are courses that not only upskill you, but put you in a vantage position for you to be able to get the right and appropriate jobs. Don't just sit down like, oh, I'm doing my NYC. That's fine for me. I don't need any other thing. And sometimes there's this joke about some people who just say, God will do it for me, but they are not taking action. The corresponding action they are supposed to take to get that opportunity. So please don't just sit down. Whether you are serving, you're done with your service, you're about to go for service. Take courses that upskill you. And this will bring me to an opportunity that is available for people who are interested in banking particularly, and who are interested in having access to mentors, who are interested in the community, who are interested in learning these things. And it is called the Banker's Course, right? So the Banker's Course is a course that is designed for anyone interested in banking, such that usually, largely, what is being taught in graduate banking schools, that's for people who have gone to graduate training schools. What is being taught in graduate schools, banking schools, have been subsumed into the Banker's Course, such that people who are not opportuned to have gone to a banking school can easily take the course, know the skills required to work in a bank, and because of the partnership we have with a couple of banks, people who have taken the Banker's Course would also be in a job pool. So that means when the banks are looking to recruit, your CVs would be at the forefront for them to look at and consider first and foremost, before even putting the application process out, right? Such that they can consult. It's like a route into banking that you can take. And so what the courses available in the banking school, digital communications, information security, Microsoft Office productivity tools, that's even all this PowerPoint, Excel, and all of that. Communication skills, effective communication, effective presentation. These are skills that are taught in banking schools, which has been provided in this Banker's Course. There's then the core banking itself, accounting, financial analysis, how to understand it, risk management. Remember, I said that risk management is a very important skill in the banking industry, and all of that. All of these have been put into the Banker's Course for graduates who are interested in it. Now, of course, what is the bank? I've talked about the curriculum, basic accounting, understanding financial markets, and all of that. I've been curated into this Banker's Course curriculum, which we have done in partnership with Nexford University. Now, what are the benefits of taking the Banker's Course? Number one, which I had mentioned, is the fact that you have access to an exclusive job pool for the banking industry. So your CVs, when you take the Banker's Course, your CVs will be shared with banks, and when they have recruitment opportunities, we will sort of like work with you to ensure you get the job. Of course, you go to the interview process. So going to the Banker's Course does not mean, oh, the bank will just take me automatically. But it means that the banks will see you. The banks will see your CV, and when they have an opening available, you are the first person they will call. Now, also, there's an exclusive access to a community to get support. A couple of things that I've said about preparing yourself. Having a community is important. And the community has two things. Number one, mentorship opportunities. We have partnership with banks. So it's going to be a community where senior bankers would be able to come and speak to you. Oh, you'll be able to ask your questions. Okay, how do I How do I get access into the banking industry? Okay, what skill do I need to do? Okay, this is what I want to do in the banking industry. What exam do I need to write? What course do I need to take and all of that? You're going to have that access. And of course, in the community, you're also going to have access to other information. Remember, information is power. What are the banks who are employing? What are the job opportunities available? What do I need to position myself for this opportunity? You have access. And of course, you have access to a community where you can talk with fellow applicants too. And of course, many of the people who are applicants who are in the pool will first get jobs in banks. So you can even have a sort of an immediate mentorship because, okay, you got this job. So what did you do at the interview? How did you do it? And all of that. That's part of what is available in the community. Of course, the course itself also will teach you productivity tools. These are the things the course teaches. And productivity is extremely important whether you work in a bank or not, because you need to be able to basically use the computer to be able to communicate and do your job. Another opportunity for taking the banker's course is that you have a support in preparing your CV. Remember, I said it's not only one CV you need. You need as many CVs as possible as the industries you are applying in. So you have support in preparing your CV appropriately. You have support in preparing for interviews, because we don't want a situation where graduates will come and take the banker's course and just be alone. It's actually a community for them to be able to have the support they need to have access. As I said, mentorship access. You maybe there's nobody around you who have ever been in a bank, who had like worked officially in a bank, who understand how banking is and all of that. But this community is going to give you that opportunity. Another opportunity in the community is that there are various webinars that is being organized from time to time, but the webinar is only for community members. So like this webinar we're having, I'm giving you the basic important information for what it takes for a career in banking. There are other webinars like that, but the webinars are exclusively for those who have taken a banker's course. Latest in demand skill for banking. You have as much information as possible that you need for banking. And of course, you have the ability to take the course wherever you are. So whether you are in Kotangora or you're somewhere in Ghana, you can take the course wherever, because the course is 100% online, and then you will be joined to the community, which is online. So, and you get a certificate to validate your skills. Now, to take the banker's course, there are a couple of things you need to sort of have settled, and which is primarily, remember I said that to be like a full staff in a bank, you need to have your certificate. That's your BSc, BTech, or whatever you call it. So, and that will be required of you, because you don't want a situation where someone will just come and take the course and the person is not even qualified to get a job in the bank. And because we're preparing you to get excellent jobs in the bank, you part of your application process for the banker's course will involve you uploading your university certificate or transcript, something that would help us identify the fact that you have actually gone into a tertiary institution, not someone maybe who has not finished school, or who has not got who doesn't have a tertiary institution certificate and just want to get into the bank. You know, remember that one of the stages is that your documents will be verified. Another opportunity, these are the other opportunities available for the banker's course: the exclusive access to the community, and the course is available. You will take the course for like a full month. It's 100% online, so you do it at your own convenience, but you have to do it within the month, because you have to do it within the month, because as soon as you are done with the course, your CV goes into a job pool for the banking industry, and as quickly as the faster your CV gets to the job pool, the faster you are being considered for a job, the faster for you to get a job. So we want you to complete the course in a month, and then be able to get your CV available for the banking industry. Now, the cost of the course is actually 70,000 naira. I know some might be thinking, oh, that's expensive, but really the 70,000 naira is actually a discounted amount, because we understand that the course is for graduates, and we don't want the graduates who are taking the course to be overburdened. But at the same time, the course has a whole lot of value in it. The course itself, you can say the curriculum here, and the benefits, and getting senior bankers to come into the course, to come for the course and all of that is not is not cheap, as it were. And putting the course together with Nexford University, which is a university in USA and in Nigeria, it's not cheap. So we have to have like a minimum base for anyone who wants to take part of the course, so that it will only be people who are really serious and interested in working in the bank that will take the course. And from there, we know that we can put them in the community, mentor and guide them in the community. And they are the ones that we even now begin to mentor and guide others, because they've been able to go through the process, get their career started, and then they can even invite others to also get their career started too. But I can do a 10% further discount for those who would indicate interest and maybe start paying this month. For people, it's 70,000 naira, but I understand that you may not be prepared for the whole 70,000 naira. So there's the option of paying over 2 months, 3 months, and a maximum of 4 months. But for anyone who is interested in getting the course starting the course, either making full payment this month or making one tranche of the payment, I can give you a 10% discount and no more. But the 70,000 naira was already a discounted amount for the sake of people who are interested. That is that about the banker's course. I'm going to conclude like this. And by the way, a link will be shared in the chat. 2 links, one for the survey and one for those interested in the banker's course. So if you're interested in banker's course, please fill it out, and my team will contact you on how you go about the payment and how the process of the registration will be. So, as I said earlier, there are many opportunities available for graduates in banking. The very first level for the opportunities is recognizing them. That's what this webinar has done for you. It has helped you to see the wide array of opportunities available. The second level is getting the skills and knowledge required. That is part of what the banker's course will do for you. What skills do you need? The banker's course would give you a lot of the skills required for banking and give you the knowledge and information required. Then the third level is the process of actually getting the job. Like you have done the things, many of the things which has been suggested today, but then there's the process of actually getting the job itself, which is the interview process and all of that. And the banker's course community is prepared to guide you through that process too. And I hope that as many people as much as possible will take advantage of this. Now I am going to take questions. After taking questions, we have a senior banker here who had someone who had gone to a bank graduate management training program, who there would also be like a chat just for you to see the experience of the person in the graduate program and how it is. And that graduate program experience is also what the banker's course is giving you a community. So I spoke with an executive director recently, and he was talking about the fact that the community he built when he did his graduate program is still working for him even as an executive director today, because a couple of the people who were in the graduate program he was then are also executive director of other banks now. And when he needs something from the other banks, he can easily get it. Banker's course is giving you the opportunity to begin to build your network, and not just an anyhow network of people who are going to be successful. So it is good that you begin to build your career network now. Now I am going to take questions. I know a couple of questions have been asked in the chat, so I'm just going to read the question and I'm going to answer the question. And also, if you have a question and you want to ask verbally, you can raise your hand and you will be allowed to unmute yourself. So there's a question from Oriyomi who says, can I be working in a bank and do my master's program at the same time? And Oriyomi, I'm sure you are hearing me, and the capital answer is yes. There is no issues with you being in a bank and not being able to do your master's. In fact, banks generally encourage you to take further education serious. So yes, it is very possible, and there is no issue about that. You can work in a bank and, of course, have your master's program or any other advancement you want to do. Now, someone said in the document stage, what is fidelity bond for? So I'm not sure I understand that, but if I would take a guess on what the question is, so there are some banks that have like a bond scheme. And that is because for those banks, they feel like after they have trained you for maybe 3 to 4 months thereabout in their graduate school, they don't want you to just take their training and run away, as it were. They want you to at least contribute your quota to the bank before you go. So some bank will either request that, okay, maybe you should put some money in the bank, or some will say you sort of like sign a bond that for the next 1 year or 2 years thereabout, you would not leave the bank's employ. Not that they will not pay you salary, not that they won't promote you if you're worthy of it, but they want to ensure that the training they are giving you, you are totally going to apply. And well, we're all logical beings. I mean, you want to invest and be able to make profit out of your investment. So they want to sort of like, when they invest in you, they want to be sure that they are making the profit out of it. And that's why some banks do that. Okay, there are links on the chart, so you can just look at it. I saw someone's hand earlier. Okay, that's Adedolapo Adedayo. Please, you can unmute and speak, Adedolapo.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for the lecture. My name is Adedayo Adedolapo Olamide. I want to ask 2 questions based on the course, that's the banker's course. First, what is the duration of the course? And what's the mode of delivery of the course? Now, the second question is that you've mentioned some specific areas in the banking industry. So will this course be covering some of these specific areas? Like I know that it's actually about effective communication and some other aspects. Will it be related to all these areas you have mentioned, or just some parts of the areas you've mentioned? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Adedolapo. The banker's course is for a period of 1 month. The banker's course is for a period of 1 month, but it is delivered online, which means the way it works is such that if you make your payments now, you're going to start your course you're going to be joined to the community immediately. If you make a payment today, for example, then you are going to start your course on the 1st of May. So you'll be given access and guidance for the course for the next 1 month. And as I said, the curriculum of what we have on what is available on the course is the things that you have seen. I'm sharing my screen again so you can see it. Just give me a minute. Okay, so the curriculum is what is here. So you see, this thing here is largely what is being taught in the banking school. That is on the average when graduates come to take when graduates are employed in the banking school. These are the things that are taught. So these same things that are taught in the banking school is what is going to be taught to you. And the mode of delivery is online. So you're going to be taking the course for 1 month online, which in the 1 month you're expected to conclude the course. The reason why it's 1 month is that your CV, as soon as you complete the course, is going into a job pool that banks can pick from. So want to be sure that you're disciplined enough to finish the course in the 1 month that is allotted. Because again, remember, if you're working in the bank, there are timelines for delivery of things. I mean, the fact that, okay, you need to do this between this and this. So 1 month is to show your commitment to the fact that you are someone who can commit to start something and complete it. So you make payment. As soon as you make payment, you are joined to the community. First of the next month, you start the course. If you have questions and support, the community is available for you. So you can ask your questions as regards area you're not clear about the course, and then you're able to do the course and complete it. When you complete the course, your CV is added to a job pool, and from the job pool, you get an interview. Of course, when you're considered and you are getting an interview, we would support you. So part of what we do, even before submitting your CV, is to ensure to work with you to ensure that your CV is right. So, and that's part of the webinars that's exclusive to that community. The fact that you are able to, you understand how to prepare your CV so that you are not giving just a random CV, but important CVs, right? That's the first question. The second question is about, can you remind me what the second question is about? Hi, Adidolapo.
Yeah, sorry. I think you've actually answered the 3 questions I asked. So the duration has been answered to be 1 month, delivery is online, and the areas it covers. So I think you've answered the questions. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay. This is an undergraduate. Onyikonsola says that I'm an undergraduate, but I'm in my final year and I'll be completing my degree by November. Does that mean that I can't apply for the banker's course? Onyikonsola, when you finish your degree in November, then you can apply for the banker's course. Remember, the minimum for you is to be a graduate. So as soon as you finish your degree, you can actually apply for the banker's course, irrespective of whether you have served or not. So yes, it is until when you finish your degree. Okay, I have a question from Grace. Okay, Grace, I don't seem to be able to see your question again. Can you just maybe share the question again? And if any other person has a question and you don't mind raising up your hand, you can raise up your hand so I can see it. Okay, Grace, I can see your question now. For someone who worked in a bank for some years as an outsourced staff, but left to further gain valuable skills, what advice can you give to such a person who still wants to go back to the banking sector, but has probably passed the graduate trainee age requirement and finding it difficult to get a position as an experienced hire? Okay, so there's a part I just realized from the question that I omitted from my conversation. There are 2 categories of people that can take the banker's course. The first and primary category is people who are fresh in banking. I mean, who just graduated rather and want to work in a bank. Now, the second category of people is for experienced hires. When you take this banker's course as an experienced hire, maybe you're working somewhere outside of banking and all of that. The advantage is giving is number one, you understand the basic skills required for banking. Then number 2, your own community will be slightly different from the community for fresh graduates. Now, your own community, because you are already an experienced hire, you have access to the webinars and all of that. But the guidance that will be provided for you will be slightly different because that guidance will have to be unique based on your situation. For example, you have worked as let me see, you said you have worked as an outsourced staff. So I guess either it's tailoring, customer service, or an operations role. So what will be done for someone in this situation is to then give them guidance on how to get maybe an operations role or maybe a supervisor role for tellers and customer service. So with that skills you have, we'll work with you to see what options can be available. And when there are such openings in the bank, you'll be able to get it easily. So that's the second side of the banker's course. So yes, experienced hires, especially who have not been in banking before, or you've been in banking as an outsourced staff and you have gone to get further degree or something and you want to come back to banking, yes, the banker's course is for you too. And we'll work with you on that. Do I have any other question from anybody else? Any other question? Okay, seems that, is anybody typing a question? Okay, looks like we're good. So to apply for the banker's course, a link had been shared on the group. You can please, my team members can please share the link again. the link is to the survey, and in the survey, you would see somewhere to accept whether you are interested in the banker's course or not. So if you're interested in the banker's course, we would sort of like send a mail to you and contact you and guide you on how the process is going to go. Also, there is the page you're going to register from after the bankers, after you have indicated interest, is actually the certifications by Unify website, right? So because I know there are a couple of people who do not have maybe who are already bankers on this call, but there are other skills you can take advantage of, as it were, as a fresh graduate. And there are a couple of courses on the certifications by Unify website, which you can take. Currently, the courses you can have access to, you can see my screen, there is the perfect speech, there's effective communication, there's personal effectiveness, there's how to make friends and influence people. Those of you who are shy, you should take this course. And there is disruptive leadership taken by the MD of Sterling Bank. This is a course. The banker's course is also coming up here. But while you register for the banker's course from here, you would actually take the banker's course on Nexford learning environment, so that you can get the best learning experience. So you can check this site out. I know it has been shared in the chat room too. So in the absence of any question, I think we can go to a chat with someone who has gone to a graduate program, just so you can get the feel of how a graduate program is, and then you can also know that that's the kind of feel you would have taken the banker's course. So thank you very much, everyone. Sally, over to you.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me now? Hello. Okay. So Samuel, thank you very much for that very insightful webinar. Even as an experienced person, there was a lot for me to learn from that. Thank you for taking us through that and giving us really successful tips. One of the key things I want to highlight from everything Samuel has discussed today is the fact that knowledge is power, information is power, and it's really, really key, because these are things that I wish I had. This was the kind of information that I wish I had access to as a fresh graduate. When you finish university, sometimes that period between being in your final year and serving, or sometimes you've not gone to serve, it's very crucial once you get to your final year to have as much information as possible. And the beautiful thing that technology has done is to make sure that this information is at your fingertips. So it's very important that we leverage information. So thank you very much, Samuel. Also, before we go to the next session, which is a chat with a mentor, also Samuel talked about the importance of after getting this information, taking action is very important, because sometimes people listen to taking a lot of information and then they do nothing with it. Maybe you're finding excuses to say, oh, maybe this is not for me. I want to, you are giving excuses for yourself. If you don't take action, then the information that you've gathered is useless. So as much as you can, if you want to find out more about the banker's course, click on the links, tell other people about it, reach out to Samuel, reach out to myself, and get more information. Reach out to, the mentor that we're going to be chatting with much later. So it's just very important that we take on board what we are gaining today. I would speak more on how we can leverage this information into and translate it into taking action. But right now, I would like to have a chat rather, with an experienced senior banker, Kelechi. Kelechi, are you here with us now? Hi, Kelechi.
Hi, Sally. I'm here. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon. Well, thank you so much for making time out of your busy schedule, to have this chat with us.
You're welcome. I'm trying to turn on my camera, but
Same here. I think the host, could you give us,
access, please?
Yes, because it's important that people see who they're talking to.
Absolutely.
So we can connect with our audience. So while we're waiting for that, Kelechi is going to give us some tips, some insights into her journey as a banker, how she got into the banking industry, and tips, strategies that can help new graduates to get into the banking industry as well. So please make sure you can you pay attention to this segment, and definitely type in your questions in the chat box. If you have questions for Kelechi during the session, I will be glad to take it. Host, do we have video access yet, or should we go ahead? Hi, Unify team. Do we have video access now? Okay, we still don't.
We have now.
Okay, all right. Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much. My camera is a bit iffy though, so just manage what you can see right now. As I said earlier, my name is Sally Okogho. I'm the Regional Communications Manager for Nexford University, and I have Kelechi Nwozuzu with me. Thank you, Kelechi. We can see you very well.
Okay. Okay, hi, Sally. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. So, Kelechi, I'm just going to ask you to please give us a quick introduction, tell us about yourself, and then we can get started. Thank you.
Okay, so you already know my name. My name is Kelechi. I currently work as the general manager for Cafe One. And yeah, I think I've been in the banking industry in Nigeria for about 5-6 years now. I had a bit of a break in between, but yeah, I think cumulatively about 5 years. So I started my career in 2017, January 2017 to be precise. And yeah, it's been an interesting journey, a bit unconventional, but interesting nonetheless. I think it's important to mention here that I was one of those people who swore that they would never work for a bank. And I think this is because of, I don't know, just the general perspective that, I was made to have growing up about bankers and the banking industry. And so imagine my surprise when I graduated, finished NYSC, and it was time to find a job. And yeah, and I landed in the banking industry. So I'm sure like some of the other questions that Sally will ask will lead me to tell the story, in more details. But yes, that's about me. That's who I am. Kelechi, GM Cafe One. Nice to be here. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Kelechi, for that fantastic introduction. And yeah, thank you for also, highlighting the perception you had of the banking industry, because to be honest, I share that perspective with you. I always thought, okay, bankers were very, very boring people, just wore suits and, got to the office every day to sit down and just crunch numbers. And definitely I wasn't a numbers person. So I was like, okay, this is not going to interest me at all. I didn't have the information about, all the other careers that are embedded into the banking structure. Just knowing that just because you're in the bank doesn't mean you're, going to be crunching numbers all day. It was very interesting to know that there's strategy, there's innovation, and just seeing how the different products that you people have, there's Unify, there's Cafe One, there's all these other things going on, within the banking sector,
Yeah.
product management. So it's really nice to know that. So can I just quickly ask you, how did you get into banking? You know, sharing this sort of background and being very afraid of the banking sector. How did you eventually find yourself in? How did you get in?
So like I said earlier, it's a very interesting story. And I think it's very coincidental that I'm having to share this story on this platform. So I think I was in my third year in university when I saw a course online. And that course was being offered by Push CV at the time. And so, you know, Push CV maybe they had just launched or they had been around for a short while. And so they were saying, oh, if you're a new graduate or you're not a graduate yet, you should take this course. And if you're successful in this course, it would improve your chances of getting a job. Now, at that point, there was no, like, I knew that I wasn't going to need a proper job for a few years, but I was like, yeah, okay, I'll take the course. So I did. And it was a lot. It was not an easy course. It wasn't a one-day thing. It wasn't a one-week thing. You know, it was a course that I could tell that what they were trying to do was to make sure that, you know, the quality of people that were coming out on the other side of the course were, you know, really good people. So I went through the course and I did it and I forgot about it. So this was like towards the end of my stay in university. And so I finished university, I did NYSC, and NYSC was about to end, and I started to think about, oh yeah, what's next? And I had this plan in my head that I wanted to work for one of the big four, and you know, I was going to work for them for a few years, and then I'll port to somewhere else, but nowhere in that plan was banking, you know, mentioned. And so I'm sitting in my house one very blessed afternoon in the middle of, I had begun the recruitment process for one of the big fours, and I was in the middle of all of that, and I was so sure. In fact, I didn't even apply to anywhere else because I was so sure that I was going to get a job with that particular big four company. And I got an email from Push CV, and they say, oh, hi Kelechi, your profile was just screened, you can see you've completed this course, you know, and so we have recommended you for a role with a Union Bank. Union Bank was recruiting for their graduate trainee program. And in my head, I'm like, I don't remember, you know, I don't remember how that, you know, how did this happen? It was a very interesting, you know, thing. But because everybody who cared to listen to me, I told them that, you know, I was going to work for KPMG. I was already in the process of being recruited into KPMG, so I wasn't even interested. So I remember looking at that email and they're like, click here to, you know, if you're interested or something. I'm like, okay, I just clicked in a very nonchalant way. And it redirected me to another page and asked me to fill out some details. And I don't know if they even said to write do a quick test. I don't remember because I was not invested in that process. You know, it was just like, oh yeah, you took this course, you did well, your CV is one of the high ranking ones. So yeah, we've been moved on to the next stage. I was like, okay, yeah, I did that and I forgot about it. A few weeks later, I was preparing for, I think, the next stage of the assessment for the KPMG recruitment. And then I got a phone call. I remember exactly where I was sitting. And the person on the other end of the call picks up and says, hello, my name is Shola, and I'm calling you from Union Bank. I just want to tell you that you were successful in the da-da-da-da-da. I was confused. I'm like, what is going on? And he said to me, oh, please confirm your availability for an assessment center, which is the next stage of the, you know, of the recruitment process. And I was like, yeah, you know, I look at my calendar really quickly. I'm like, okay. Yeah, I'm available so and so day. And that was it. I went for the assessment center. Now, I will be very honest on this call. The reason why I went for the assessment center was kind of like, it was supposed to be like preparation for me for the main assessment center for KPMG, because I'd never done an assessment center. I mean, I was fresh out of university, fresh out of NYSC camp, or rather the NYSC year-long program. And so when Union Bank says, come and do an assessment center, I'm like, I don't want to work for a bank. So why would I bother going? But I'm like, well, these people are saying assessment center. KPMG had already sent me invitation to do assessment center. So I can use this as a dry run test practice type thing. And so I showed up And that was my first assessment center experience. It was brilliant. And I forgot about it. I went on to do the other ones, and a few weeks later, I get an email saying I was successful. Now, I'll backtrack a little. Before I went to the assessment center for Union Bank, I had said to myself, even though you don't want to work for a bank and you're interested in something else, it would be foolishness to go there unprepared. And so I found somebody who worked at Union Bank, a family friend, and I scheduled like an entire day's meeting with him. And I said, tell me about it. I said, before I even asked any question about the assessment center, I told him, I said, I'm one of those people who has always said they don't want to work for a bank. These are the things I like doing. I like doing this. I want a job that will allow me to do that. I want a job that will allow me to travel. I want a job that will allow me to do this and do that. And he looked at me and I said, is there any department in the bank that does this thing? And he said, yes, this is the department. I said, that is where I want to be. So tell me what I need to do to get in there. And I remember, I will quote him verbatim. He said that it is easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than for you who has zero connections, zero experience, zero nothing to get in there. And I said, don't worry, it's fine. As long as this department exists, that's where I want to be. And then he prepped me for the assessment center, told me all of the things to expect, how to answer questions, how to do the presentations. And it was a really, very efficient session, or effective session rather. And so I went on to the assessment center. And that gave me, like I said, it was preparation for the main assessment center that I was actually looking forward to. Fast forward to December. So I had finished NYC in October/November. I had the first set of interviews and all of those things in November, December. And I remember I was maybe in church or something, and then I got an email from Union Bank telling me that I had been successful in the assessment center. I had never been so happy and sad at the same time, because I had not heard feedback from the other organization, from KPMG. And so I'm like, hey, God, what's going to happen? Am I going to become one of these bankers? I didn't even know what a graduate training program was like. I didn't know. I just thought it was going to be, because my sister worked in a bank at the time and she was not happy. She seemed miserable. So I'm like, God, I don't want that to be me. But yes, I got the email notifying me that I had been successful, and resumption date was February 3rd, if I remember correctly. And I was like, okay, God, before this February 3rd date comes, please make sure these other people get back to me with my, congratulatory email. They didn't. They didn't, and I resumed at the training school for Union Bank. And I think in my second week in training school, KPMG got back to me. But by that time, I was sold out. Like, I remember my first week in training school, I'm like, hey, is this what I was going to miss out on? It was like a proper banking experience. They were training us for, I was learning and seeing things that I didn't know before. And so when I got the email from KPMG telling me that, I had been successful and they were going to give me an offer, I remember thinking to myself, what do I do? This is probably the hardest decision that I've had to make. Well, second hardest, because a more difficult one came a few years later. But yes, I decided to stay in Union Bank, and I do not regret that decision. I didn't take I asked for a couple of days to think about it. I spoke to my mentors, I spoke to my parents, I spoke to everybody I could speak to. And everybody was saying, oh, go for the Big Four, they have this reputation. But apart from the fact that the bank was offering me more money than, which I would like to mention here so that I'm not being hypocritical. It was not about the money for me. It was the potential. My first day in Union Bank, I sat in a room with like really senior people. And I remember thinking, wow, I was so like happy to be in that room and just be there. And they were going through a transformation and there was so much happening. And I'm like, this is where I want to be. And this is where I want to be at. And I felt like, yes, I was in the right place and no regret. So that was really how I got into the banking industry. I went on to spend about 3 years with Union Bank before I left them. And now, the rest is history, basically. Sorry for the long story, but I needed to tell it to drive home my point.
Absolutely, not at all, Kelechi. I believe it. I enjoyed the story, and I'm sure our listeners enjoyed it as well. So thank you for sharing your story of how you got into banking, and another a theme that keeps recurring, both from your story so far and with what Samuel shared earlier, is you got information on time and you acted on it. And that's really just wonderful. Because I had a similar experience like you, but I did not act on it. I told myself, nothing, I don't want a banking job. I got called to a first bank interview. My brother-in-law was there at the time. I went for the test. I did very well. They called me back for an interview. But guess what? I didn't bother to go. I was like, beg, leave me. Who wants to go and be, so I just really like that you shared your experience. You got the information, you took action. And even though it wasn't where you wanted to be, you realized that you needed to do something at that time, and you did it, and then that opened up your broadened your horizon, so to speak. You were able to see beyond what those of us who were outside did not see. And I really appreciate that. That's experience with First Bank cost me, because I took a long time before I got another job offer, and if I had taken that, maybe it would still have led me to where I wanted to be.
Yeah.
But I just didn't realize it at the time. So thank you for sharing your story. Stories are very important, when we see people who have lit up the path in front of us, it helps our own path become shorter and faster. So quickly, what was your experience in the graduate training program, the trainee program? I know you talked briefly about it, but what was it like, and how has that helped you in your career?
Okay, so like I said, it was brilliant. It was something like I did before I went into the graduate training program. I did not know that it existed, and even if I'd heard about it, I didn't know what it entailed. But it was basically about 2 months of like proper training. So to show you how detailed the program was, I think our last week there, they brought someone in to take us on etiquette, on how to eat when you're in public, on how to speak when you're in public, on how to basically how to dress, how to brush your teeth, like that. So of course we started with the more serious stuff like the banking. So they took us through different aspects of banking, through credit writing, through giving out loans. They took us through the treasury unit. They took us through communication, the branding aspect of things. They took us through compliance. They took operations. So basically everything. And beyond the classroom learning, I think the graduate training program was split into two. And so the first part was the theoretical aspect, and the second part was the practical aspect. The theoretical one was for a few weeks, where we're in a classroom and we're learning all of these things. And then after that, we were then assigned to the field, like to different departments within the bank. And I think that for some people, they might have thought about it as a waste of time. But I think that is the best thing that happened to me. And so I think when I was introducing myself, I had said that my career path has been a bit unconventional. Like I've had a very unconventional career, very different. And the reason why is because of this graduate training program. So I had the opportunity to work for, I think, 1 month each time with each department. What that did for me was it helped me build a very strong network. But then I was also learning. And so I think my first department that I worked in was I think operations. I worked in operations, I worked in compliance, I worked in the legal team, I worked with the strategy team, the marketing communications team, basically everywhere around the bank. For 1 year, I was just moving to each department. I would stay 1 month there. I would work with them. I would learn what they're doing. I would move on to the next one, treasury operations, FinOps, basically everywhere in the bank. The ones I liked, the ones I didn't really like. But the most important thing was that risk management was that each one of them, there was something that I learned. And that has given me a holistic view of the world of work in Nigeria. Whether anybody likes it or not, there is no organization, there's no sector, there's no industry that I cannot comfortably, settle in and work in because of that graduate trainee experience. I worked in a branch as well. It was not very fun, but I loved it. And at the end of my 1 year going round, it was called a rotation. So I was then posted to, like a final resting place. And that really was the foundation for my career till date. I don't think that I would be where I am if I didn't have that, because I would be in a room where people are talking about credit, or they're talking about loans, or they're talking about really like core banking stuff. And I'm going with the conversation, I'm contributing, and they're looking at me like, how do you know these things? I'm like, don't worry. Or I'm in another room and they're talking about compliance issues, legal issues, operational issues, risk management issues. And I'm talking and I'm saying, and they're like, how do you know? I'm like, don't worry. I had a brilliant foundation thanks to the graduate training program. And so, yes, it has impacted me a lot. I started my career in communications. I worked with the brand and marketing communications, digital marketing team. I was there for a while and I'm like, I think I want to switch. And it wasn't difficult making the switch. So I'm currently in business development, and I would like to think that I'm killing it here as well. So if I did not go through the graduate training program, I do not think that I would have been as equipped as I am, in my current capacity.
Thank you so much, Kelechi, for sharing your experience. I do agree with you. The way you break it down, that you explain it, it just makes me feel more like, oh, I really missed out on it. Just seeing the different departments that you were taking through during the graduate training period, and how you're able to contribute into discussions at different places is really it's a great one. And it just helps people to see that banking is not all about adding figures or moving people's money from one place to another. There's a whole lot to it. And one of the things I took out from your conversation is you mentioned some of the departments that you worked in and some of the things you learned during the graduate training program. And I was just trying to, reconcile it with the banking, the banker's course, the 1 month banker's course that Samuel talked about earlier. And I see that it's basically the same thing, like, this taking learners through accounting, credit risk management, operations, business writing, communications, presentation skills, creative thinking, business etiquette, like you mentioned. Yep. That sounds like a very interesting one.
Yes.
So I just feel like it's really nice, that this graduate trainee experience that you have is being condensed into this banker's course for new graduates to key into. And it just shows how much innovation, how innovative the world is today. Absolutely. In the past, you had to go physically to go do that. But now this is an online course. So if you're a copper serving in Zamfara, or you're serving in, wherever you're serving in, as long as you have your computer and you have data, you can actually take that course so that before you finish your program, you're equipped, you have a valid certificate, that validates your degree. Because degrees, we all know that degrees are no longer just it. Everybody has a degree. Almost everybody has. It seems like, there are degrees everywhere, but what makes you stand out from the pile? So thank you so much, Kelechi, for sharing. My last question for you is, what advice, you've shared a lot of, things that helped, but what advice would you have for fresh graduates who are looking to get into the banking industry, and people like me who did not have that information on time? What would you advise?
Okay. So I'll try to keep it very brief and simple. The banker's course is brilliant. So I remember, discussing with Samuel and looking at the curriculum, and I'm like, if I had this in my time, there's no telling where I would be right now. So I would say, I sat in an interview. I was interviewing some candidates yesterday, actually, and I was having a side chat with a colleague, And we're on the same page with regards to the fact that a lot of people, a lot of graduates are unemployable. And unfortunately, it's simply because some of them have just refused to do their homework. They've refused to learn. They refused to try to, improve themselves. You're coming for an interview and you're so unprepared. And so I would say to fresh graduates, please, 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 and please, take the banker's course. But don't stop there. Every opportunity to learn and improve yourself and anything I'll give you an edge. Like Sally rightly said, almost everybody has a degree these days. It was when we're younger that if you had a master's degree self, you would be like, yeah, they'll look at you as. Now almost everybody has a master's degree. So you have to keep looking for ways to differentiate yourself, to set yourself apart from the rest of the crowd. And I think courses like this will help do that. But beyond that, network, ask questions, if you can, and this might be a bit more advanced, if you can, try to find a career sponsor or mentor, just somebody who would, help guide you through the process. And for experienced hires, it's not too late, Sally. It's not too late. You missed out at the entry level stage, but you can still take the banker's course. There are a lot of experienced hire openings, even within Sterling, and I'm pretty sure that they will be excited to have you aboard. So yes, that's my advice. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kelechi. In fact, I think it's like you were reading my mind, because I was going to say, you know what, it looks like I want to port into the banking industry. And I mean, you're the best mentor to have for that. So yes, definitely I'll be contacting you.
No problem.
Thank you so much for sharing this information today. Some people have information and they want to hoard it, but you were very open with your experience and you shared it with us. At first when you said, oh, you got into the Big Four, like you got that and you didn't take it, I was like, And then you mentioned, okay, the bank you gave us reasons why, like the bank was going to pay you more at the time. And then you had tasted the banking experience and you saw that, look, it's way beyond what you thought it was. And you were very sure that was going to get you to where you're going. So thank you for sharing that. You were very honest and candid about it. And we had no doubts that, what you've shared will be very beneficial to our graduates who have joined us and to experiencers like me. So Samuel, please note my name more. So thanks, Kelechi. It was nice having you for this session. And we're just going to do a quick roundup of the session. Thank you, Kelechi. So just to bring